Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and I already gave you a quick overview of the Cyclone, so what I wanted to do now is actually take you around the MISC Razor, which is the racing ship that was released by MISC. It is now available in 3.1. Now keep in mind, Razor is not to be confused with Racer, even though they should basically be synonymous, because this thing is basically an F1 car. The look of the ship is really cool. Basically, it's got these kind of fins on it. The lights on it are kind of bright, which is nice. It's very aggressive looking. It's got logos all around it, which you may or may not like. I mean, you got Microtech and Bearing and a few others around the ship. As far as the lights go, or I guess the elements, you get some kind of glowing engines, which you would almost expect from a performance ship. In the back, you've got your two engines, very similar output to input design. And then one thing that's interesting is on this ship, you're supposed to have what's kind of known as like a composite material, and you can almost see like the carbon fiber effect there. What that's supposed to do is actually help you enable collecting hydrogen fuel, so you're actually able to replenish your boost fuel a little bit more often. And believe it or not, that actually works. The replenishment rate on this, whether it's scientific or not, actually is very high. You know, it does not take you very long to be able to bring in more fuel compared to some other ships like the M50 or the 350R. You've also got some additional just like wings for control. You've got inputs over here. And one thing that's interesting about this ship actually comes down to the cockpit. And actually the way you just enter. You know, you got weapons down here as well, but we're not even going to cover that. This is a racing ship. You don't have a lot of weaponry on board, so it's not super important. That being said, when you get in the M50, the cockpit ends up opening and you end up getting a ladder that comes down. On this ship, what happens is you actually get the cockpit glass that retracts, and you end up just climbing up the ship as is. Nothing else comes out. It's a little bit more organic. It feels a little bit more familiar. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and climb in. And you can see the glass just retracted. We grab on and we jump into the interior. Alright, so now I have the ship basically positioned to where I've got the sunlight interior. And if we end up looking around, you can see everything is pretty close to you, but you don't necessarily feel claustrophobic. You've got some nice touches like carbon fiber on your stick. When you look around, it kind of continues there. They were saying everything's supposed to feel soft. I don't personally get that. You know, I think this looks like it's mostly, fairly purpose-built. Nothing about this says to me like this is comfortable. But, it's at the same time, it's not uncomfortable. It doesn't look industrial like you would expect a MISC ship. It's just kind of an interesting balance of like an M50, or something like like a freelancer. It's kind of in between the two. Now, as far as visibility goes, you can really kind of get a pretty good perspective. I mean, overall, you have nice visibility. You got two bars. It's not terrible. You've got... frankly, you know what? You've got a little bit of, lack of visibility in the front based on the HUD and that actual nose, which if you're zooming through asteroids, I mean, you've got a pretty big blind spot there, which I don't necessarily like. Now, it's purpose-built. You've kind of got the HUD reflector there, which I think makes a certain amount of sense, but it also causes some general problems as well. Now, as far as the speed of the ship, you can end up getting up to about 330 as basically, 335 is your major top speed. And then when you actually start applying Afterburner, your top speed ends up being, I believe it's 1345, which is a perfect comparison to the M50. So let's make sure I'm right there. Yep, 1345. Fuel does replenish quickly, like I mentioned earlier. Agility, as you can tell, is off the charts. I mean, it stops fast. It moves agilely. I mean, it's a really fun ship to fly. Now, one thing that's interesting to where things are currently is when you get into atmosphere, you do end up getting a little bit kind of a shake. You don't get that in the M50, so I think what that's speaking to is probably flight model that hasn't necessarily been finalized, but it is worth noting. So if you're thinking about doing canyon runs, it does respond pretty well, but it's not necessarily going to be as a smooth experience as that Origin ship that's going to be basically the main competitor. Over time, I think that's going to change. I think it's just the fact that we're seeing a new ship in the engine that isn't necessarily updated to the same effect. Durability-wise, I haven't hit anything yet. I haven't gotten into combat yet. I'm not necessarily expecting that to be a major, I guess, benefit for this ship. I mean, it's a racing ship. It's going to be fragile. It's one of the lightest ships in the game for a reason. So you're not going to be able to take damage well. The good news is you are ridiculously small. This thing is basically the size of a Cyclone. Now, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not far off. Weaponry is small. You got a couple of size 1s on board. At least they do have a decent fire rate. But overall, you know, this ship you're not getting for combat. You're not getting for cargo. You're not getting for really any other purpose, right? You're basically getting this ship because you want to go fast and you want to have a good time. And based on the design and the way that this thing performs today, I think it's basically fulfilling that need. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to do some follow-up videos. I'll probably do some fun, like let's fly through canyons type of stuff with this ship. But I think it is worth pointing out that I think it's going to be very specific in its value, and you need to make sure that it's the right type of ship that you want. But again, if you want something that's just kind of the fun sports car, I'm in a midlife crisis, I want to drive around fast, this is going to be perfect. So if you have questions about what this ship can do, what it is, how it is today, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for a lot more content coming soon, and have yourselves a wonderful day. Take care.